Let's begin with the foundations. Welcome to another lecture. Today we consider James Handy, an American character actor whose steady presence on film and television from 1977 into the 2020s exemplifies how supporting performers sustain whole narrative ecosystems. I am Professor Alexei. We will proceed carefully, clearly, and I hope with a modest quantum of dry humor.
Hello everyone. I am Priyanka, a doctoral student. I'm curious about how actors like Handy shape what we remember about shows, even when we don't always know their names.
To frame our discussion, it's important to understand what we mean by character actor. In technical terms, a character actor is a performer known for distinctive supporting roles rather than leads. The work often involves projecting specificity, credibility, or texture that allows the story to feel inhabited by real institutions and communities. Think of Handy as the foundation and load-bearing walls of a narrative house. The facade may be star-driven, but the structure stands because someone like Handy is holding weight in scene after scene.
Maybe the best place to begin is by asking a simple question. When we call him a character actor, do we also imply certain recurring archetypes, like police or judges? Is that fair to say?
Clearly, in this context, definition meets practice. Handy frequently portrayed authority figures, police officers and captains, judges, doctors, priests, and government officials. Examples abound. Captain Jim Haverhill on NYPD Blue, Deputy Chief Fire Marshal Declan Duffy in the film 15 Minutes, Detective Van Adder in the O.J. Simpson story, Judge Albert Meade on Raising the Bar, clergy in Unbreakable and Third Watch, and an elected representative on The West Wing. These roles, while often brief, anchor the moral and institutional stakes of a scene. Moving forward, why does this matter now? Handy's work remains present tense because he appears in films and series that continue to circulate and influence. Jumanji, Unbreakable, Logan, and Top Gun Maverick on the film side. The X-Files, Law and Order, ER, Criminal Minds, and Alias on television. It's crucial to understand that such performers are often underappreciated. Yet remove them, and the story collapses like a bridge with a missing truss.
Isn't it interesting how we remember scenes, but not always who steadied them? That feels like a structural blind spot in how we talk about television and film.
On to our next point. A few basic facts to set the timeline. James Handy was born in March 1945. Over the decades, he accumulated credits across major networks, cable and features. Then, tragically, in June 2026, he died in Los Angeles at age 81 after being fatally stabbed. Authorities reported that Michael Gledhill, the son of Handy's girlfriend who lived at the residence, called 911 and said he was responsible. Later that month, Gledhill was arrested in connection with the case. We state these facts without sensationalism. They form the closing bracket of a long career.
To shift gears a bit, two details stood out to me. First, he played Det Van Atter in the O.J. Simpson story, which suggests industry trust in his restraint with real-world material. Second, he appeared in K-9 in 1989 and returned a decade later for K-911, which went direct-to-video. That feels like a good example of the long tail of a supporting role.
Speaking of tales and texture, a brief personal note. As a viewer and a professor, I find that character actors are the chess bishops of storytelling. They move on diagonals, often quietly, but control long lines of the board. Handy's entries into a scene frequently signaled the rules of the world, what counts as evidence, authority, or mercy, so that the star could risk bolder moves. Without that frame, chaos. With it, resonance. Let's transition to another aspect. Three big questions. First, historically, how did Handy's career evolve across decades? Second, counterfactually, what if he had been promoted to a series regular role on Alias? Third, in the present, what is the lasting impact of character actors like Handy on the industry? We proceed sequentially. For the historical question, we observe a classic arc. In 1977, he entered television with Ryan's Hope. Early 1980s features include Taps and The Verdict. Then a cascade of mid-80s television work, Matlock, Cagney and Lacey, Stingray, builds his procedural credibility. By 1989, he is Lieutenant Byers in K9. Around the same period, he surfaces repeatedly on LA Law, even as different characters, which is a hallmark of trusted character actors. The 1990s consolidate the pattern. Arachnophobia, The Rocketeer, Jumanji, and on television, Melrose Place, NYPD Blue as Captain Jim Haverhill, Profiler as Lou Handelman, The Practice, again as multiple characters. The late 1990s also bring Deterrence and the home video sequel K911, demonstrating pragmatic range across distribution models. Entering the 2000s, he threaded prestige and populist venues. Unbreakable, a two-episode stint as Representative Joe Bruno on The West Wing, 15 minutes in a senior public safety role, then, crucially, a recurring arc as Arthur Devlin on Alias across the 2002-2006 window. The 2010s reaffirm late career demand. Castle, CSI New York, Rizzoli and Isles, Criminal Minds, and in features Logan and Suburbicon. Finally, Top Gun Maverick in 2022 places him inside a cross-generational blockbuster, a small role magnified by a large cultural footprint. The through line is consistent authority and credibility, regardless of screen time.
I'm curious about selection. Do we know whether Handy chose authority roles, or was he steered there by casting because of voice, presence, or prior credits?
We can infer from the written record and casting patterns that industry perception did much of the steering. Once an actor demonstrates gravitas and clarity with procedural dialogue, ranks, regulations, diagnoses, casting directors tend to redeploy that competency. Handy's timbre, measured delivery, and economy served institutions well. Captains, judges, priests, doctors, officials. It is worth noting that such specialization opens doors across networks. ABC's Alias and Castle, NBC's ER and Law and Order, CBS's Criminal Minds, The Young and the Restless, and NCIS Los Angeles, Fox's The X-Files and 911, TNT's Rizzoli and Isles, thereby ensuring steady visibility over decades. Now the counterfactual. What if Handy had been promoted to a series regular on Alias? Empirically, he appears as Arthur Devlin across multiple episodes between 2002 and 2006. Some sources list 8 episodes while others cite 9, a discrepancy that often reflects multi-part counting or archive credits. Hypothetically, a regular contract would have increased his on-screen minutes, deepened backstory, and likely raised public name recognition, especially during the early 2000s peak of network spy drama. The trade-offs are non-trivial. Greater prominence can yield typecasting within a single brand, potentially limiting availability for the very cross-platform guest work that sustained him. Conversely, a regular role can unlock new agency in career negotiations, higher billing and press visibility. In simpler terms, a higher perch, a narrower branch.
What comes to mind next is perception. Do producers subconsciously rank character actors as forever supporting? Or is there a pipeline where a strong recurring presence realistically graduates to lead or co-lead?
Arguably, both dynamics operate. Industry economics prize reliability. Weekly procedurals depend on guest stars who can calibrate tone immediately. That said, recurring arcs can and do become regulars when narrative gravity accumulates. In Handy's case, his utility was precisely his portability, arriving, establishing stakes, and exiting without narrative turbulence. The system relies on such artisans. Visibility often accrues cumulatively, across many titles, rather than via a single promotion. Let's shift focus to the third question: impact. The lasting contribution of character actors like Handy lies in world building. Consider the cultural shelf life of Jumanji, Unbreakable, Logan, and Top Gun: Maverick. When a viewer encounters a familiar, trustworthy face in a brief role, narrative credibility rises quickly. This is especially potent across generations. A 1990s audience may know him from NYPD Blue or Profiler. A 2010s audience from Criminal Minds or Castle. A 2020s audience from Top Gun: Maverick or 911. The same face functions as a memory anchor.
Building on that, how is this changing with streaming? Do recommendation systems and fan wikis make character actors more visible, or does the endless scroll dilute individual recognition?
It is worth noting that streaming simultaneously fragments attention and enriches metadata. On one hand, infinite catalogs lower the chance of any single supporting turn becoming a water cooler moment. On the other, searchable credits, pause screen overlays, and social databases make it easier for viewers to ask, "Who is that actor?" and then follow the breadcrumb trail from, say, an Alias episode to Logan to Top Gun: Maverick. An area for further research is quantifying this effect, measuring cross-title discovery rates for character actors before and after the advent of ubiquitous streaming interfaces.
That was helpful to think through, actually. It makes me wonder if we could model recognition as a network problem, with actors like Handy serving as high-trust nodes connecting very different audiences.
To summarize, James Handy was a prolific character actor, foundation and frame, who added depth and credibility to films and television from 1977 through the 2020s. We examined three questions: the historical evolution of his career, a counterfactual in which his Alias role became a series regular, and the broader ongoing impact of character actors on entertainment's narrative infrastructure. For those wishing to extend the inquiry, consider the role of character actors in the streaming era, especially how metadata and audience behavior reshape recognition.
So, I guess that kind of sums it up. Thank you for listening. We hope you meet a familiar face in your next show, and maybe you will remember the name behind it.
This concludes our lecture for today. Be well, and until next time on another lecture.